The athletics track shimmered under the June sun. Mark clenched his fists, eyes fixed on the starting line of the 800 meters. It was the regional final, and the whole school had come to watch him run. For 3 years, he had won every race. Today, he wanted to beat his own record. Runners, take your marks. Mark leaned forward, his muscles tense like springs. Next to him, a boy he didn't know settled into lane 7. Messy hair, an old faded pair of shorts, sneakers that had clearly seen better days. Mark gave him only a brief glance. He was clearly not a serious competitor. The starting pistol fired. Mark launched forward with the power of a feline. His strides were perfect, his breathing controlled. By the first turn, he was already in the lead, just as expected. He could hear the crowd shouting his name. Mark.
Mark.
Mark. His heart swelled with pride. 2 laps, and it would be over. Another trophy for his collection. But halfway through the second lap, something strange happened. The boy in lane 7 started catching up. Not with Mark's elegance, no. His arms flailed awkwardly, his breathing was loud, almost painful to hear. And yet, he was moving forward. Meter by meter, he was gaining ground. Mark felt a sting of worry. He sped up slightly. The boy sped up too. His legs were visibly trembling, his face bright red, but he refused to give up. Go, Mark, his coach shouted from the stands. Mark pushed harder. He could feel the lactic acid burning in his thighs, but he refused to lose. Not today. Not in front of everyone. He was the champion. That was his identity. Final turn. Mark was still ahead by a few meters. But the other boy was right behind him, his hoarse breathing echoing like a warning. Mark didn't dare look back, but he could feel him, this presence that refused to surrender. 100 meters. 50 meters. And then it happened. The boy stumbled. His legs, pushed beyond their limits, gave out. He crashed onto the track, his knee scraped, his hands raw against the rough surface. Mark crossed the finish line as the winner. The crowd exploded into applause. But Mark wasn't smiling. He turned around, breathless, and saw the boy still on the ground, 20 meters from the finish. The referee was already whistling. The other runners were crossing the line. The boy could have stayed down. He could have quit. No one would have blamed him. But he didn't. Slowly, painfully, he got back up. Blood ran from his knee. His hands trembled. He had lost. It was over. But he started running again. Not really running, actually. It was more like a determined limp. One step, then another. The crowd had gone silent, captivated by the unlikely scene. Give up, kid, someone murmured in the stands. But the boy couldn't hear them. Or maybe he was ignoring them. He moved forward, teeth clenched, face twisted with effort and pain. 15 meters. 10 meters. Mark, his medal already around his neck, watched the scene without being able to look away. Something tightened in his chest. 5 meters. The boy finally crossed the finish line. Last. Seconds away from the record Mark had just set. He collapsed immediately, completely exhausted. For a moment, no one moved. Then, somewhere in the stands, someone started clapping. Then another. And another. Within seconds, the entire crowd was on its feet, applauding the boy who had finished last. Mark felt his cheeks burn. No one ever applauded him like that when he won. Oh, they cheered, of course. But not like this. Not with such intensity, such pure emotion. The boy's coach rushed over with a first aid kit. As he cleaned the wound, Mark slowly approached. Up close, he could see the boy's patched shorts, his sneakers repaired with tape. "What's your name?" Mark asked. The boy looked up, surprised someone was talking to him. "Leo." "How long have you been running?" 6 months. Leo's voice was hoarse. "I started when my sister," he stopped, swallowing hard. "She was sick. Cancer. She always said I gave up too easily. So I decided to join athletics to prove her wrong. To prove to myself I could keep a promise." "Is she better?" Mark asked softly. Leo shook his head. "She died in February. But I promised her I'd run this race. All the way. No matter what." Mark felt his throat tighten. His medal suddenly felt very heavy around his neck. "You are incredible," he said, and he truly meant it. Leo gave a small, tired smile. "I finished last." "No," Mark replied, looking at the crowd still applauding. "You didn't finish last. You're the one who ran the real race today." That evening, Mark went home with his gold medal. He placed it on his desk beside all the others. They gleamed in the evening light, lined up in perfect rows. Years of victories. Years of first places. But for the first time, he wondered, what did it really prove? He had won because he was fast. Because he trained hard, yes. But also because he had good shoes, a private coach, a perfect diet. He had every advantage. Leo had run with patched sneakers and a broken heart. And he had refused to give up. Mark turned off the light and lay in the dark. He thought about Leo somewhere in the city, probably tending to his scraped knee. Leo, who had no medal. Leo, who had lost everything that day. Except one thing. Something none of Mark's medals could ever buy. The next morning, Mark showed up at training earlier than usual. His coach was surprised to see him there. "I want to change my training program," Mark announced.
"Why?"
"You just broke your record." "Because I want to know what it feels like to truly fight, not just to win." His coach looked at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "All right. Let's see what you're really capable of." The following weeks were the hardest of Mark's life. His coach pushed him like never before. There were days he wanted to quit. Days when his legs refused to move, when his lungs burned, when every fiber of his body screamed to stop. But every time, he thought of Leo getting back up on that track, moving forward meter by meter despite the pain. If Leo could do that, Mark could keep going. A month later, there was another competition. Mark showed up, but this time something was different. He was no longer running for first place. He was running to prove to himself he could go beyond his limits, that he could keep going even when it was hard. He didn't win that race. He finished third. And when he crossed the finish line, exhausted but more alive than ever before, he smiled. Because he finally understood. Courage isn't winning when everything is easy. It's continuing when everything feels impossible. It's getting back up when you fall. It's keeping a promise even when no one is watching. And that is worth infinitely more than a first place.